Hi guys, good morning. Welcome to my channel. If you've never been here before, I'm Jamie. I read a lot of books, and as of this year, I am on YouTube. So I am about to show you my stack of books that I finished in the first week of October, which is exciting in that I actually have a stack of books. Oh my goodness. So this is my stack of books. Ooh. I was supposed to be reading a lot of tomes, big books. You might have noticed just from the page side of these books that they're not tomes. Yeah, I've got 4 going kind of simultaneously that are doorstops. But I've been reading a few chapters at a time in each one of them. I'll probably finish some of them soonish. I might even finish one of them by the end of the week. But in the meantime, I'm also reading all the other books, and I actually finished some Conan. So these are the Conan books that I explicitly read in book form. I also listened to the complete Conan sequence. There's a collected stories where it's literally all of Conan kind of in order. They are so hard to focus on after a while because there's so much of the same. These were not books that were meant to be consumed as one giant book. They were published as short books and short stories. A lot of the Conan stories actually started out in magazines, not in a book. So, if you've started Conan and started getting really confused right away because, wait, which princess is this? Are we battling a snake or a demon or a monkey or Conan is a chivalrous barbarian. He does actually have some rather advanced morals relative to the people around him half the time. So he's the one saving the weak and the helpless and helping women. The women in these stories are kind of refreshing. These are old books. They are classics in the fantasy genre. And we're not talking like turn of the century. So there are older, but this one, the publishing date on it is 1967. So they're classics. The women, some of them are actually good at wielding swords. And occasionally they rescue Conan, which is nice. You'll see this in quite a few books in this genre, actually. There are your typical, adventurer dude that shows up and rescues the helpless maiden. But there's also a lot of dude shows up to rescue helpless maiden, maiden saves his butt, and maiden decides that she's found herself a new boyfriend, and eventually she moves on because she gets bored. There are actually sequences like that in the Conan stories. So that's kind of fun. Lots of gratuitous violence. When in doubt, dive in with your sword and see if you can kill some supposedly bad guys. They're always bad guys, though, once Conan takes his sword to them. He doesn't kill the wrong people. Unlike Elric. I also finished this collection from the Elric Saga. This is one of those omnibus volumes that's some of the novels plus some of the short stories. So this one gets Elric to where he's decided that he is no longer dedicated to serving the Lord of Chaos, Ariak, that's been his patron and kind of master so far. Elric is the last member of a family that has a deal with the Chaos Lords, and in particular Elric, who supports them with his powers and helps them be, dominant in their world. Except that that's not actually how the universe works once you get out of their little world. It's a multiverse system, so there's the world that the Elric we're following comes from. There are other Elrics. There are other worlds that are like parallel worlds where Elric chose different things and went different ways. And so Elric is actually a crossover fantasy and sci-fi in that respect. It really does get into some of those science fiction ideas of the multiverse and how that works and how do you travel between worlds, and but it's still on the magic end. So Conan and Elric are very similar in that they're both an adventurer who goes around and saves people, except Elric has a magic sword that he is dependent on for his energy. He is bonded to this sword. It drinks souls. So if he cuts someone with his sword, it sucks their soul out. And his sword has an appetite that is a bit broader than what he wants, so that when the sword is out, it may not just kill his enemies. And early on in the Elric story, Elric kills a few people that he really loved because his sword is out and his sword does it. And occasionally he has further mishaps with this sword. And sometimes he kills people he thinks are bad guys and he finds out that they weren't. So Conan and Elric are similar kinds of heroes, but Elric is far darker. They both wander around in states of undress a lot. So if they were made into accurate movies, you'd see a lot of skin on both Conan and Elric a lot of the time. And they both rescue women a lot. A lot of the women in both of them are badass. Actually, the last story in this Elric book, the quest belongs to the woman Rose, not to Elric. Elric is going along with Rose and trying to help her when he thinks that she's in over her head. Turns out that she has powers he didn't know about, and while she did need his help, they are better as a team. She knew what she was doing a bit more than he gave her credit for. So that's nice. If you like adventure stories where the women are not, weaklings that have to be rescued all the time, you actually might like both the Conan series and the Elric series. Elric is by Michael Moorcock. Conan was actually written by Robert E. Howard. But Robert E. Howard died young. And he'd written all these things, and he had notebooks and unpublished works and all that. And then Sprague and a few other people came along and took what was there and massaged it into publishable work. This is a collaboration between the initial author, Howard, and these other admirers slash, fellow writers. So you'll see them on places like Goodreads with different authors attributed to them. That's why it's complicated. They're very good. I had read bits and pieces of both before. I've seen some of the TV show for Conan. I don't think I've ever seen Elric in a film. I don't know if they've done that. And I'm not sure who I'd have play it. Maybe, I don't know. Some of the folks that do the Marvel movies might be obvious cast for Elric shows. Maybe, I can see it. I also finished 2 Ray Bradburys. I finished the library binding of Icing the Body Electric. Yeah, when I showed this one before, I was not so sure about if it was as good as I remembered before. It wasn't. I have some favorite Bradbury stories. None of them are in this book. They're okay stories. The writing is still always good quality writing. So the voice is nice. Word choice is good. I'm not so sold on some of the stories themselves. So, of all the Ray Bradburys, that's probably not my favorite collection of stories. And there's Katerina. This is the other one I finished. This is actually 2 novellas. The first novella I liked. The first one is called Somewhere a Band is Playing. And there are things I don't like about it. I don't like poetry. And this one is crystallized around a poem that Bradbury wrote sometime before he did the novella. So I almost want to just skip those parts. Just skip the poetry bits and go back to where the margins are normal again. I did read them, but they didn't really add to my experience of the story that much. I suppose if you were to do it in an audiobook with a good reader that's good at reading verse, those poetry sections might be better. I tried reading some of them out loud, but they didn't scan for me the way I speak. So I would need to sit with them a while and figure out how to perform them. Anyway, it was okay. The second story in this one, it's called Leviathan 99, is Moby Dick in space. I don't like Moby Dick. It's very much Moby Dick in space. They're hunting a comet. This Bradbury book is fairly recent, as in it was published at a time when we knew what comets were. 2007. Yeah, so this book came out when we already knew what a comet was. And yet, the characters in this story don't know what a comet is. They're a spacefaring future human group. They have, spaceships, they're going out hunting a comet, and they think that the comet is like supernatural or changes time and space. No, it's a rock. Rock, ice, chunk, flying through space, doesn't have any powers. It's definitely not ripping holes in time and space and dragging a ship down with it. So I found that a little awkward. It was like he's trying to write as if he's in the time of Moby Dick while still having space travel. That did not work for me. So I think I gave the book 4 stars because I liked the first story a lot and I didn't like the second story at all. So maybe 3.5 stars if we did half stars on Goodreads. The last one I finished is Red Threads by Rex Stout. And this one is not a Nero Wolfe, but it does involve Inspector Kramer, who is the poor inspector who has to deal with Nero Wolfe and his shenanigans all the time. So that was fun. I did not finish any big books, but I have made progress on a lot of books, and I will do another video showing what I am currently reading so that this doesn't get too long. So check out video 2 from today to see what I am currently working on. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.